Mexico is a great place to visit, especially for its physical features. Mexico's geography includes 5 beautiful regions, a warm climate, and a variety of flora and fauna. The people in Mexico use all of this geography to their advantage to make a living. Mexico is located in Central America, bordering Guatemala, Belize, and the USA. The major bodies of water surrounding Mexico is the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of California, Sea of Cortez, and the Pacific Ocean. Mexico has its own fantastic features that you will want to go see someday yourself. There are 5 regions in Mexico. There's the Pacific Northwest, the Central Plateau, the Gulf Coastal Plain in the Yucatan, the Sierra Volcano Transversal, and the Southern Uplands. The Pacific Northwest is a very dry, 800-mile-long land. In this region, there is very little rainfall, so not many crops grow here. The Central Plateau is located in the center of Mexico and has the richest farmland out of all of them. Also, it rains in the summer there, which is good for crops. The Gulf Coastal Plain in the Yucatan starts dry in the north and gets more moist as you go down south and then turns into rainforest. There is some farming and little streams there. The Sierra Volcano Transversal is where most of the volcanoes are, or were, but now most of them are not active. Pollution is a big problem in this region because this is the main area where people live. These regions are very helpful to Mexicans because there is different stuff to grow or use in each region, so they can trade or buy different stuff from each region, and everyone can get what they need. All of these regions can interconnect in that way, so their country functions correctly. The climate in Mexico is mainly warm. In the rainforest it is cooler and the rest is hotter. The Tropic of Cancer cuts right through the middle of Mexico, and that's where the warmer desert regions are. Since Mexico doesn't have much of a season change, the climate stays the same all the time. The climate is different in all the regions, so different crops grow in each region, so the people have a variety of crops to use. The plants in Mexico are very similar to each other. In the dry regions, there are a lot of cacti, agave, cassava, and many more plants that live in a hot and dry environment. In the more moist regions, there are more plants that could survive in a rainforest habitat, such as palm trees, flowers, bushes, and much more tropical flora. The people in Mexico use all of their flora resources because all of their plants can be used to their advantage. The animals in Mexico are very normal for a hot environment. Some of the main fauna is birds, wild sheep, deer, and bears. In the rainforest live monkeys, jaguars, and cougars. Just off the coast there are many fish, and out in the ocean there are many more fish and gray whales. Mexicans are very lucky for all this flora because they can use it for food and much more other stuff that is not taken for granted.
Mexico is a very unique place, especially with the economy. You'll learn about Mexico's economy. Let's start out with a fun fact. What is Mexico's currency? A. Pesos, B. Dollar, C. Euro, D. Quetzal. If you pick B, C, or D, you're wrong. A was the correct answer. Okay, let's move into currency. You already know what the currency is pesos, but here's the thing. You don't know what they look like. A peso looks like a coin that is coated with a silver ring around it. Paper pesos are bright colors that have faces on them. Okay, so now that you know what the peso looks like, don't you want some history? Probably not, but I'll try to make it fun. What amount equals a US dollar? A, 10, B, 15, C, 13, D, all, E, 9. E is the correct answer. The peso fluctuates and is not always the same like the American dollar. One fact about the peso is that the peso was based off the Spanish money at the time, which was called the silver dollar. But after the Spanish was defeated, did you know what they did? They kept the peso for their currency. Even now, they still use it. Corruption is scandals or stealing or vandalism. Basically, corruption is people doing bad things. But economic corruption is where it concerns money, like scandals and robbing. But the most common economic corruption is where police officers fine tourists, then they keep the money from themselves. And this is not okay. This is illegal, but they still do this. The good thing about the government is a new police force that is following the law. The only thing about the government is that the citizens are assuming that the government is using Mexico's money to buy houses. Guess what? There is a tour bus that shows you all the country in Mexico City. The tour bus is a blue minivan that is called the Collector. Organization is made by A, adults, B, government, C. Police, D. Teenagers, E. Kids. The answer might surprise you. The answer is D. Teenagers made this tour because they saw through the corruption and they want you to see too. You have learned about currency, corruption, and also did you know that Mexico used to be known for the corruption? I hope you had a good time and watch out for corruption. If you see it, report it immediately.
There are many cool things in Mexican culture: the food, the religion, the clothes, and their arts. And all of those things represent Mexico's beliefs and culture. Let's start with Mexico's religion. About 80% of Mexican people are Roman Catholic, which means that most of Mexico is Roman Catholic. In the Roman Catholic custom, the people believe in the Pope, or the Holy Father. The Pope is the head of the Roman Catholic Church. Mexico's Catholic Church is part of the worldwide Roman Catholic Church, meaning that the current Pope is the current Pope for the world. This Pope is Pope Francis. And although their religions are interesting, their food is also rich with culture and flavor. Whenever you think of culture-filled Mexican food, you think of spicy hot, burn-your-tongue-off tacos and quesadillas. But is that really what it is? Yes, Mexico does have spicy hot, burn-your-tongue-off food, but it is so much more. They have creamy and rich foods with hints of spice for flavor. They even like to have a normal cup of coffee with breakfast. In their culture, they put their work time around their meal times. So instead of rushing through a hasty breakfast so they could get to work, they rush off from work to get to their meals. Their culture also influences the times they eat. Compared to our times, their eating schedule is delayed. Sometimes they might have a lunch at 4 p.m. As you can see, meals in Mexico is not something to miss out on. These foods are bright with culture, as is their clothing. You may have noticed that Mexicans tend to wear bright colors. This is part of their culture. They believe that they do not have to choose the dull and boring colors that blend in with what everyone else wears, but they like to stand out and be noticed. In fact, they think that letting loose with their wardrobe colors brings them closer to God. But bright colors are not only found in clothing. You will see them come out in Mexican arts, dances, and the culture behind it all. Mexico has many interesting arts and specials. They have dancing, art, and singing. Some of the dances include the Mexican hat dance, the deer dance, and an agricultural dance. The clothes worn for the dance are bright in color to represent the freedom of the Mexican culture. One of the more popular forms of arts in Mexico is music. They like to sing about more common subjects in everyday life, such as love. An example of this would be a serenade, a song where a man comes up to his lady's house and sings to his girl, trying to convince her to love him. But you are probably wondering what influenced all this culture. What made this culture what it is today? The answer? The Aztecs. Through all of the years that lived on after these Aztec times, the culture has lived along and adapted through time. In fact, the symbol of the Mexican flag is based off of an Aztec legend. As you can see, Mexico is rich with culture and overflowing with religion.
Mexico, a place to relax in the sun and on the sandy beaches, have fun in the ocean all day, eat great food, shop for miles, and get away from busy life. That's all true, but Mexico also has wild jungles and prairies that have had established life that will blow your mind. For example, there have been 3 native tribes on the land of Mexico that made life possible without 21st century items. First, we will start with the Olmecs. The Olmecs started their civilization in 1200 BC. The Olmecs were very civilized in art and religion. They celebrated the jaguar god, which represented life and death. The jaguar god could also be in forms of a jaguar or a human. They also were great at art. They made stone face carvings and stone statues. Archaeologists think that they disappeared 600 years after their civilization. The only thing left are the carved heads of odd people and other artifacts left from the civilization. They made life easier for the Maya and Aztec because they started a good civilized life and prepared life for life to come. Maya. It's the next native tribe I studied. They were a very civilized tribe. They studied mathematics, science, astronomy, and art, and they practiced their religion. They studied astronomy very well. They can tell when the next solar eclipse is going to happen on a calendar. It lasts 8 months. They use math and science to keep track of the seasons. What they did to keep track of the seasons was they watched the weather, animal behavior, and nature. For example, when leaves on the tree started to fall, it was autumn, and when leaves started to come on the trees again, it was spring. Art was very important to them, and they were great at it. They had a lot of free time, so they made art. Some of art represented ways of life, gods, faces, and stories. They carved with stone tools and wooden mallets. They made art out of jade, gold, silver, wood, bone, shell, sandstone, and clay. Their diet was what they had to eat around them. They ate vegetables that included maize, potatoes, sweet potatoes, beans, and cocoa beans. For meat, they ate dog, turkey, duck, rabbit, iguana, deer, and fish. They ate these main types of food items. Poor people ate insects to survive for food at times. They believe in the god Hanabu and the creator of the universe, and they believed that life sacrifice was important to keep the world in balance. They sacrificed turtles, dog, iguana, crocodiles, and the most important, human. The Aztec was the next native tribe I studied. They were the most studied native tribe between the 3 tribes that lived in Mexico. They studied art, agriculture, and focused on their religion. One of the gods that they appreciated was the god Quetzalcoatl. He was the god of life. They say that he went to the underworld and stole bones from the underworld and used his own blood to create humans. He also built the city of Tenochtitlan and will come back for it and retrieve it for his prize. They farmed on a lake. They were very smart about this because the crop area would always have water to let the plants grow. They are called chinampas and grew vegetables on them. Even back then, some people were poor. They had to eat bugs and tadpoles. The kings and higher people got higher quality food. Game animal like deer, iguana, duck, and fish. Vegetables. They grew potato, sweet potato, beans, avocado, and chili, onions, and tomatoes were used as spice. They spoke Nahuatl and wrote glyphs to communicate. They had symbols to represent words, and they spoke to communicate to each other. Art was very important to them. They also had a lot of free time to focus on art. They made art that represents animals and gods. They also made art that explained daily life and great achievements. They also made masks. They made it out of gold, silver, copper, jewels, coral, just to name a few.